Okay, I think we're in the clear. I think we're good. What's going on, guys? It is IceLikeCooper88, also known as Steve. And as somebody, apparently you would think I would know because it's the month of October that, it's Halloween month, but it completely slipped my mind, guys. Well, actually, it didn't. I couldn't figure out how to compile a good list of games for you guys, or let's play walkthroughs, etc. I just was focused on getting the latest episode of Spider-Man and Batman out, and everybody's like, oh boy, it's that Halloween weather, and then I was like, oh yeah, the month of October is Halloween. You would think working in a grocery store and seeing all the Halloween candy that it'd be obvious, but, whatever. But anyway, guys, I figured the first one I would start off with is an indie game. And the first indie game that comes to my mind is the game Home. This is a unique horror adventure by Benjamin Rivers. And I have played this before, but it's been a while as well. This is an indie game, guys, and it's a pixelated indie game. You'll see what I mean when you play it. And of course, the game does autosave. However, we recommend you put aside an hour and a half and complete Home in a single sitting. Turn up the sound, turn off the lights. This is definitely a horror game that, it's all about ambiance. The ambience is what gets you. All I remembered at that point was finding myself alone. Ugh. Oh, my head. Where was I? It was so dark. There was something by my feet. A flashlight? Yeah, this is a pixelated adventure game with, big ambiance. There's no real jump scares per se, but the game is all about mood and ambiance, which I figured that it would work for this game. That house. Where was I? There was a body lying on the floor? Who was it? I didn't recognize his face. He was still kind of warm. Okay, maybe there is one or two jump scares, but they're not bad ones. The desk had a computer and some papers on it, and a single drawer. I didn't want to snoop, but did I open the drawer? Yes. Receipts, pens, and a blurry photo. Looked like a store of some kind. Why did this look so familiar? I really shouldn't have been going through this stuff, getting my fingerprints everywhere. Blood spattered on the wall. It smelled fresh and sickening. I realized there was blood on my shoes and pants. Oh man, I had to get out of there. If that man died in the hallway, what was the blood doing there? I noticed that I limped as I moved down the stairs. How did I hurt my leg? I wondered. All I could really recall was coming home and seeing Rachel. I was upset, and she looked afraid. I shook my head and tried to clear it. I knew I should head downstairs and find a way out. The shelf was full of books on local history and hunting. Seemed like the owner of the home really knew the area. There were scribbles of all kinds on random scraps of paper and notes about some kind of water tower. Did he mean the one by the old train yard? I'm sure some of y'all are just like, Steve, do you really have to narrate it like this? Yes. Yes, I do. A thin gray mouse was stuck in a trap. It looked frantic but exhausted. Did I free it? Absolutely, we're going to free the mouse. We're not going to be an a-hole about it. A collection of rusty tools. These looked like they had seen a lot of use and were caked in damp, smelling dirt. Why weren't they in the shed? This was an odd place to keep yard tools. What would they have been used for in here? I found a picture of a couple. It looked like it'd been moved a lot. There seemed to be a switch behind it. Did I push the switch? It depressed smoothly into the wall. I heard a faraway click somewhere. Something must have opened somewhere. Just gonna do a little excuse me. Just doing a little exploration, guys. A black and white photo. It looked like the man upstairs and his wife, I guessed. There was no reason for me to keep this. Did you take it? Yes. I slipped the photo into my pocket. Maybe this would help me find some answers. An old dining table covered in dirty dishes for 2 people. There were dozens of beer cans and other liquor bottles among the dishes. The smell was turning my stomach. How long had this been here, rotting? The man upstairs didn't look like he'd been dead a long time. I looked like hell. My clothes were dirty and torn, and there was mud caked all over my shoes. Had I been sleepwalking again? Was that how I got into this house? The front door was blocked by a pile of furniture. I knew I had to find another way out. The bathroom was spotless. Everything had been wiped to a sheen. I wondered if it was the man's wife who did the cleaning, or him. There was a photo development tray lying on the floor. Some leftover negatives were sticking out, but they were pretty blurry. I thought I saw what looked like treetops. It seemed odd that the tray had been left there, considering how clean the rest of the bathroom was. Excuse me? You want to run that by me again? The door was taped up and seemed to be stuck. By the smell, I guessed it led to the kitchen. I gave the door a hard shove, and to my surprise, it cracked open. There were sheets of paper all over the table. It looked like a series of names were written down, but they were too smudged to read. I could only make out a few of the notes. Key card, locker, last one, I promise. I didn't think much of it at the time. The smell of old dishes and moldy food was dizzying. The switch in the wall appeared to have unlocked the door. Let's keep going, guys. That's very puzzling. That's very peculiar because went through there, saw all these notes, got into the kitchen. It led nowhere. Let's keep going. Oh, I didn't realize I could just poke my head above there. Oh well, we're gonna keep moving forward. The box looked heavy, but there were marks on the floor. It had obviously been moved before. Maybe I had found a way out. I must have moved it, right? I heaved the box forward and gave it my all. There was a ladder going underground where the box was. A dank smell rose from the passage. Did I climb down the ladder? I looked again at the photo I found in the house. The couple looked distant, like they didn't want to be in the same photo. I wondered where the wife was. My leg was in terrible shape, but I had to get out. Probably would have figured out where the wife was. These boxes would have allowed me to climb back up the ladder again, but I didn't want to go back up there. Not with that body and all that blood. Yeah, so I guess we never figure out... I guess the game... Oh, excuse me. What the hell? The game, I guess, will let you figure out certain narratives. It's like a create your own narrative horror, like horror adventure game, and I like that. I dig it. Footprints in the dirt look like more than one kind and a lot of traffic. Whatever this place was, it was obviously used a lot. Places all over were marked on the old map of town, the industrial area near the river, various houses, and even the water tower near the old rail station. The guy upstairs must have done this. But what was his interest in the water tower? Some of the markings matched the scribbles I saw on the bookshelf upstairs. Newspaper clippings from the local paper. They were all about murders in town over the last few years. Wait. There were photos. Photos of our house. What the hell was this about? Maybe I should have looked around more, tried to find some kind of information. See? Narrative things where the more you explore, the more you understand the story. Oh, Rachel, please be okay. I wanted to rush home, but I had to find a way out first, and I needed to see what else was down there. So, see, you get more of the story if you explore, but since we're doing kind of doing my own playthrough for you guys, I'm probably not going to get every single thing. And I'm not going to, go through every choice so you guys, have the ruined experience. You guys have to play this for yourself and kind of explore and do your own thing. Okay. A work table. Covered in papers, dirt, and a handgun. I hated guns. I didn't take it, did I? We might need it. I tucked the small firearm into my pocket. Its weight was somehow reassuring. Why did I take the gun? It was so dark down there, and the air smelled stale and putrid. I couldn't believe what I saw. What was this place? The desk looked old and was caked with grime, but on it was a stack of old faded paper, covered with what looked like names. They were scratched out, and illegible notes were unwritten beside them in faded blue ink. I could only make out a few letters. None of it made any sense to me. Nothing about Rachel or me was written there. Maybe I needed to keep looking. Some kind of homemade rack slung together with poorly cut wood and rope. It was caked with old blood. Somebody didn't actually use that, did they? The smell in that room was like old grease and rot. I wasn't getting any closer to finding anything useful. Crudely made shelves. They looked like they were holding cans of some kind of corrosive. The labels were worn and slick, but I could see the warnings. The slight fumes that still emanated from the cans made me dizzy. It looked like A cage? It was small, but there was something coating the bottom. Something wet. This place was getting worse all the time. I knew I had to keep moving. Now, let's go back upstairs and go through that one door. Rusted hooks, like the kind you'd find in a butcher, hung from the ceiling. They looked pitted and worn from heavy use. That man upstairs, did he do this? It was getting more nauseating the longer I stayed there. I felt sick and weak, like I hadn't eaten for days. There looked to be bones half dug into the ground, and the remains looked old. The faded clothes that stuck up among the dirt looked familiar. They looked like the clothes that woman was wearing in the photo I found. Was this the man's wife? I wondered, what would I have found had I dug deeper? Probably would have found out that he murdered his wife. Probably. It's a very big possibility. So I'm sure you guys are probably gathering like the first little tidbits of how this game kind of works and things you should be looking for. Hopefully you guys are getting excited as you watch this, because I really want it to be an exciting experience. Some kind of old boxes. They look like they were years old. Wait a minute. These boxes had old clothes in them. Clothes I remembered throwing out after Rachel and I moved to town. What the hell were they doing here? If I was scared before, I was terrified now. Why were these photos of our house there? And these clothes? Was that why I was here? I checked my back pocket and realized my wallet was missing. Did I come to that house, or did somebody bring me? I am not vengeance and I am not the night, but I am Batman. I remember noticing the broken ladder. I had to be careful. There was a rope hanging there. I wasn't sure how sturdy it was. Did I take it? Maybe the rope would make that broken ladder easier to descend. Why is there a skeleton behind the wall? Methinks that this man, might have been a serial killer. I'm just saying. The rope I found would have let me climb down the broken ladder safely. Did I climb down? I could hear a faint hum, and the smell from before started to get worse. The ladder was too high to reach. I must have tried to find a way out from where I was. A bunch of old newspapers, wheat pasted together. A message had been hastily smeared on it. Keep out. Danger due to cave-in. I wanted nothing more than to get out of there. I could still feel a faint impression of the rope I had slid down as I pressed against the heavy metal door. It was probably for the best that I hadn't jumped. The ache in my leg was bad enough as it was. But I could have, though. I would have run straight out of those awful tunnels. Who would keep such a place? At least I thought I had found that old handgun. It seemed to work, and from the smell of it, it had been used already. I kept the gun in my pocket. It seemed a familiar weight there. An exposed ventilation shaft. Maybe someone crawled through there, but it was so high up that it must have been a sore landing. My leg ached just thinking about it. There was dirt on the ground. It looked wet, and there was grass smeared within it. Odd, there was similar dirt on my own shoes. I could hear a faint trickling sound, like water. What was that? There was a rusty ladder sunk into the water, which smelt disgusting. I knew I could not climb down that. Maybe I could find a way to drain the water? A kitchen knife, covered in drying blood. Thinking about it made me sick. I didn't want to touch it. Did I take the knife? No. I still had the old handgun. I wasn't sure what good a knife would have been. No, we don't need the knife. Okay. I wasn't sure, but I thought it was some kind of regulator. I had no idea how it worked. Though through the dust I could see handprints from previous use, probably from whoever worked in these sewers. The door was locked, and there was a musty smell coming from inside. Disgusting. It was a mess of filthy trash bags. Or garbage bags. There were rips and tears in most of the bags. What looked like an old videotape was sticking out. Did I take the tape? I wasn't sure what I hoped to discover with the tape, but I took it anyway. I didn't want to keep digging through this mess. The plot thickens. It looked like the water drained out of that grate in the wall. There was a small metal key left floating in the shallow pool of rancid water. Did I take it? I pocketed the small key, but it was so odd-shaped I had no idea what it might open. I think we know what it opens. It might open that door that was locked. The safety poster had definitely seen better days. How old was this facility? The faded paper was yellow and dusty, but it had obviously been wiped off recently. The door was locked. I could see a faint light from within. There was a security camera in the room. There must have been a way to see what had happened. Maybe the VHS tape I found could be useful. I couldn't help but wonder if someone was watching me from the other side. I found another dead body, a sewer worker. He was a mess, but he looked like he'd been stabbed. I could see a keyring that had fallen off of his pocket. Did I take it? I worked up the nerve to snatch the keyring away and put it in my own pocket. I was feeling even more sick from seeing another dead person. I didn't want to get any more blood on my clothes. Okay, so this guy got stabbed. I used the keyring to unlock the door. The shelf was full of security tapes that were strictly organized, though covered in dust. It looked from the tape I found was the one that was missing from the shelf. I wondered what was on the tape and why it was thrown out. There was a dusty VCR on the security desk. I wondered what was on that VHS tape I found. Did I play the tape? Oh no, the videotape showed a man right there in the sewers being attacked. The tape looked fuzzy and stretched, like somebody had tampered with it. It looked like there could have been two men. I couldn't stand to watch that video again. I tried a bunch of the keys on the keyring I had found on that sewer worker, and one of them seemed to fit. A faded receipt was half trampled on the ground. It was from the local train station and was for 2 tickets. I didn't know what use it could be, but did I keep the receipt? I neatly folded the spoiled receipt and slipped it into my front pocket. This entire room was a mess. The wall was littered with dozens of old faded papers. Whoever did this was obsessed with some local murders. According to some of the clippings, bodies had been found in ravines in the forest, and in one case dumped in the back of an abandoned truck. I couldn't be sure, but I thought some of these same articles had been pasted up back in those tunnels. Did that sewer worker find this room? Is that why he was killed? Did that... Oh. A collection of stale liquor bottles covered the floor. This room didn't seem like much of a place to drink. What was the point? We're getting more... Don't you dick with me, game. I will have none of your sass. The thought of the camera looking into this room only made me feel more claustrophobic. This must have been the other end of that ventilation shaft. Whoever used it could have gotten past that flooded room with this. Clever, but why go through all the trouble? Would I need that gun or that knife before the end? Both weighed me down and aggravated my leg as I climbed that old ladder. The thought of that videotape still gave me the chills. Who was it that didn't want to be seen? Was it the same person that hid all those newspaper clippings away in the locked room? Suddenly the awful smell of that sewer gave way to the pine-scented blast of fresh air. Okay. An old ladder leading up to an ancient water tower. The ladder needed to be extended so I could climb. Did I extend the ladder? Yes. I popped the latch and brought the ladder down. Okay, let's go up here and see what we got. Shut up! Little assholes. From the railing I could see over the woods and down to the entrance to the sewers. Had I come through there before? If I did, someone definitely could have seen me. It was getting cool up there, and I shivered with an uneasy sense of what was to come. How did I get home from here? How did I get home? In a patch of smeared dirt and grass, there was a beat-up old wallet. I thought it was mine. Did I take it? I slid the filthy wallet into my back pocket. I noticed it didn't contain any kind of gun permit. In fact, it didn't contain any cards or ID of any kind. I thought I could recover my credit card and driver's license at least. Did I put this up here? Or was somebody else carrying it? By the way, in case anybody's wondering, because of the way this game's designed, I'm going to be playing this all the way through. So if it is, in fact, more than 2 hours or so, just roll with it. I tried the little key I had fished out of the murky puddle in the sewers, and it fit. I heaved open the rusty door. The wind was picking up a bit. The night air had become strangely chilly. Aha! The old train station was quiet as a tomb. The only sound emanating through the place was the increasing wind buffering against the windows. An old ticket booth that looked fairly ruined. Inside the ticket window there were sheets of paper and... Wait, what were those? Train receipts? I thought the receipt I had picked up might match these, but of course not. This station had been closed for years. The ticket must have been for the newer station that opened up on the other side of town, after this one was abandoned. However, I noticed a series of fresher-looking paper, covered in tiny notes, scribbles, and diagrams. Ooh, we got a trophy! Escape route. It looked like someone had been leafing through the old ledgers, looking for something, a name perhaps. Okay, so that's funny, I just earned a trophy while playing this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. I am intrigued. I am very much intrigued by this. So I hope y'all are hyped as well. An old map was encased in glass, hanging off the wall. It was the train routes connected to the old station. As I looked at it, it seemed familiar. Of course! The map I found in those tunnels had similar locations marked. And the notes I found on the other man's bookshelf. His notes mentioned the water tower and even this train yard. What was he doing? Coming back here? The sorry condition of that place looked so sad, however, but it was also extremely ominous. The old train was ripped open and hanging from a shred of metal, as well as the broken fence, was a dark, stained patch of cloth. It looked synthetic, like some kind of outerwear. Inside the train's shell, I could see a few faint impacts, like wounds. Could they have been bullet marks? Was somebody shot there? The ground was well worn, though, and I couldn't really make anything out. I realized I was touching the gun I had found, as I thought. It was getting colder out there, and I had to keep moving. This must have been the entrance to the forest that was mentioned on that map I had seen. Whoever was poking around in those tunnels underneath that man's house had scribbled notes on this place, but I couldn't make them out. Here, the sign pointed out various campsites and walking paths within the forests. And woods. I mean. It mentioned a river, and maybe a washroom? But the rest was too faded for me to see clearly. I almost wished I had paid more attention to those crazy scribblings. Maybe I would have been less nervous about entering this dark forest. Yeah, maybe so, dude. Trampled into the dirt and grass was a plastic card of some kind. I brushed it off and was surprised to see it was my credit card. I wasn't sure if it was still usable, but it was mine. Did I take my credit card back? Dude! Of course you would. I pocketed the credit card. Hopefully I could find my driver's license too. Like, why would you not want to take back your own credit card? That's stupid. Through the fence I could see a dilapidated outbuilding. I wondered if I could find my way around. Well, let's see. The cheap dome tent slept 2 people. I shone my flashlight inside and could see some bedrolls, 2 backpacks, and a cooler. I felt like if I kept rooting through the campsite, somebody would walk in on me. 2 folded camping chairs were on the ground. One was knocked over. There was a couple of cans of beer spilt on the ground. Whoever was here left this place in a hurry. But why? There was a fire pit there. It was still a little bit warm, and a few embers still burned at the bottom. Was someone else out here in these woods? Why did they abandon their campsite? Yeah, maybe Smokey the Bear wanted to teach him about how to prevent forest fires. And then when they didn't, he fucked him up. I'm just saying, there's a logical explanation for this. The grimy sink had a small patch in it that looked almost clean. There wasn't much in the way of clean water there, but the sink did work. A musty wooden plank propped up on the stall door. It didn't really seem useful. Did I bother to take it? I wasn't sure why, but I took the plank. We're gonna make our boy a kleptomaniac. Because you never know. You never know when you might need a wooden plank. The sign was the same as the first one I had seen. This must have been the exit to the other side of the woods. I had finally found the exit. Once I left, I knew I never wanted to return there. Well, let's go ahead and go through here. First, we'll do a little bit of extra exploring, guys. Don't you dick with me, game. All that vibrating and stuff, trying to make me seem, shook up. There were some personal effects shoved back into the rock. Wait, there was a notebook there too. Did I read it? Inside the cheap dollar store notebook was page after worn page of names and lists. None of it made much sense. The newest page contained several names. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. Rachel, her name was last on the list and had a mark beside it in blue ink. The names Daphne and Olivia had been crossed out in the same blue ink. Cheryl, Heather, and Rose had also been crossed out, but those markings looked older and more faded. Who were all those names? I couldn't think about how much I needed to get home to make sure Rachel was okay. Your boy might be a serial killer. No, we're the only ones that are like discovering this thus far. A dirty old picnic table sat alone amongst the trees. It had carvings and marks from years of previous campers. As I tried to read some of the names in the marks, I idly thumbed the knife I'd found. If I wanted to, I could have carved something on that table. Did I? Why not? With a few crude strokes, I etched a simple design into the wood. Rachel plus H. I felt like a teenager defacing the table. I read some of the other names and notes on the tables. Surface. Ray Tron, Credit, Uncle Phil, Henry, Daniel, David, Jenny. Seemed like the table had seen a lot of use over the years. The plank I found was long enough to form a crude bridge. Did I use it? Yes. Are you done? Are the wailing banshees of this forest done? Trying to play detective and the otherworldly want to make a bunch of fucking noise and shit. Two bodies, two young women, were half drugged into a hastily shallow grave between the trees. The younger looking one was still face up, her dead eyes gleaming against my flashlight. They deserved better than that. Did I clean up the gravesite? I tried to cover them up a bit more, and I closed the younger woman's eyes. I fashioned a crude marker. I wasn't sure why, but I felt I had to do something. The girls weren't carrying ID, so I couldn't determine their names. I only hoped that whoever had done this had done it quickly. I wondered now if they had a phone or something at their campsite. Maybe I could call for help? Oh, see, we did a nice thing. Well, yeah, 'cause you always want to honor the dead. You always want to bury them properly. Like, no joke. It's like you never want to leave somebody like that. It's bad for morale. It's bad juju. You always want to, honor people's passing. But anyway, I'm sure some people are going to be like, okay, that's 2 F-bombs now, Steve. You can't use any more. Don't worry, I'm done. I'm not going to drop any more F-bombs in this playthrough unless like something scares the absolute hell out of me. I had to say that just because it seemed funny in the moment. But anyway, back to the story. The forest started to thin out a little bit, and through the trees I could make out parts of the town beyond, and the first hints of light. The mysteries of that forest were behind me, but I could still feel them breathing on my neck like a warm breath. Those girls I had found, somebody had taken them from their campsite and had murdered them. Was it the same person who left that odd notebook? I was even more eager to get somewhere safe and find a way to reach Rachel. Is it getting intense for you guys? Are you guys starting to kind of, feel the heat a little bit? Because I certainly am. As I stepped through the gate, I suddenly recognized the auto parts factory where I had worked as a machinist for all those years. The plant had closed almost 3 years ago now. Times were better then. But I had thought I heard a faint rumbling behind me. Maybe it was just the wind. See, now we're getting into civilization. I just found the body of a security guard, just doing his job, no doubt. His face was covered in blood from some kind of head wound. I wondered, was this flashlight his? I saw the blunt wound on the guard's head, and I looked again at the flashlight I was carrying. Oh no, please. That's kind of a lot of work to throw all these items around. I'm just saying. Dug into the ground was a cracked old watch. First my wallet, now this. Did I retrieve the watch? The watch was useless, but I put it back on my wrist anyway. I wished I could remember. Why was all my stuff missing? We're getting to the thick of it. Don't give me your sass. One of the lockers was hung open. Its contents were tossed around like somebody had been looking for something. Old work clothes had been packed, though, and a few photos and notes had been ripped off the door and spread around. The door was locked shut, and there was a small electrical box under the handle. A sign was pasted in front of it that said, "Danger, closed for repairs." There was a large power box with 5 lights on it. Cables burst out of the box, snaking out into other parts of the factory. The metal was starting to wear, and the cobwebs had collected on the corners, but the box wasn't receiving any power. The door was locked tight. It seemed to be connected to the power box beside it. Okay, so we gotta go do some electrical maintenance work. Every part of this plant smelled old and rotted. I noticed the old bulletin board on the wall. The board contained yellowish clippings of newspaper cartoons and notices. There were notes to and from the guys that worked here. One of them was to Norman, who was one of the older guys on the line. Norman took over a general store after the factory closed. He, Rachel, and I would get lunch every now and again. Rachel liked him because he seemed more positive despite the setback. I don't think I could say the same about me. So our boy went through a slump of depression? Our old break room table. The layer of dust and grime only made seeing this sting more. Looked like some beer bottles had been used on the table recently. I wondered, was that guard using this as a break room of his own? Very possibly. It's not uncommon for it to happen, but not exactly professional. A power panel. It looked shut off. Did I pull the switch? Power panel still wasn't working. Ah, there we go. Okay, we got this switched off. We're good. The open locker was stuffed with dirty work clothes and old boots. There was a photo of a woman taped to the inside, but it was scratched out and the face was unrecognizable. That woman's photo. I knew I had to get back to Rachel to find out what had happened. Another power panel. It was shut tight. There was a rusty-looking key card on the side. The door had been hastily boarded up. Why was it boarded up? I guess we'll find out. This was Norman's locker. The door was dented, like somebody had punched it. I don't remember him doing that when we worked there. My head ached, and I recalled the last time Norman, Rachel, and I all had lunch together. Rachel seemed so much more at ease when we all hung out. Another panel. There we go. A utility shelf crammed with mismatched tools and items. There was a claw hammer on the shelf. Did I take the hammer? Yes. As I took the hammer, I noticed it wasn't as dusty as the rest of the tools on the shelf. The locker was a complete mess. Hidden at the bottom, though, was a magnetic card. Did I take the card? Yes. I slipped the key card into my pocket. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Some of y'all are like, what the hell, Steve? I struck with the hammer. The old wooden boards came apart easily. After I had removed the planks, I left the hammer on the floor. This was my locker. There in the factory, it stank of booze. There was a picture of Rachel on the inside. It looked like it had been torn up. I thought I had taken that picture home when the factory closed. This room was nothing but bad memories. There was a mess of empty booze bottles. I wondered if that man in the house had something to do with this. He sure had a lot of alcohol at his place. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to kind of paint the picture that our boy here is a bit of an alcoholic problem. Just a wee bit. The door opened now that the power was back on. What? This is not a bad place to be in. Planks, tools, and broken up parts blocked any further passage. The factory was a tomb now. It never got repaired and we never came back. A rusty old regulator of some kind sat dusty and unused against the wall. Within the dust there were deep scratches, like from some kind of tool or blade. There was a large pile of building materials and debris blocking the path. The factory floor never did get the repairs it needed. We closed too soon for that to happen. Another smudge of dirt similar to the one I found in those sewers was on the floor. It didn't look like the footprints were mine, but they were probably way too faint to tell. With the power box working again, the door was unlocked. Did I go through? No. Actually, yeah, you know what? I pushed the handle and stepped through the door. What? The door had relocked itself. I couldn't get back through. I think it's one of those, like... Because the first time I did this and I played through it, I had the key card, like what I have now. And I think when I swiped the magnetic key card, it did the same thing. Like, put me on an unlockable path, and I think this is like the alternative. Like, you can go either which way. What? The door relocked itself. I couldn't get back through. A rack of flashlights hung on the wall. One of them was missing. Wait a minute. They were exactly the same as the flashlight I was carrying. I turned mine over and looked at the bottom. Judging by the label, it definitely came from this rack. The stale scent of the old factory gave way to the brisk odor of pine trees and dirt. I was back outside, though I wasn't sure if that was better or worse. The path beyond was dark, and my flashlight barely illuminated anything. I wondered if it had really been taken from the factory. If so, how did I get it? That poor guard. He was probably just doing his job. Maybe he knew what was going on in that boarded up room. If he did, he wouldn't be telling that tale to anyone. I hoped the path led back into town. I needed to find some help. A pickup had smashed into the guardrail and stood silent. Was this the truck that those newspaper clippings mentioned? Was there really a body found here too? I looked closer at the tailgate and could see a series of dried streaks down its back. Inside the truck was dried blood and broken glass. I was surprised this hadn't been towed away yet. Sounded like it was going to start raining again. The garbage bin was a disgusting mess of rotten food and slick black bags. I saw a thin greenish corner poking out of one of the bags. It was my driver's license. It looked damaged. Did I take it back? I cleaned the card off as best I could. It looked pretty beat up. I was amazed to have found my credit card and now this. I tucked the card into my wallet next to my credit card. Did somebody steal this from me? I wondered why they would have stashed it there. I had entered Norman's place. This was the back of the store that he ran. It was oddly quiet except for the faint sound of a television. Oh dear. I'm not liking how this is looking. Still with me, guys? The TV still flickered some indecipherable channel. I couldn't make out what was on the screen, but that glow gave me the chills. Oh no, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my coworker, and one of the few friends I had in this town, lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he had been shot trying to get up. My eyes were still wide with shock. Norman, you deserved better than this. Did I close his eyes? Yes, that's only humane. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him peace or if I just couldn't stand to think anymore about what was going on. Quickly, I closed Norman's eyes. The poor bastard. I guessed this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there were water rings from 2 cups still there in the wood. I'd never been to Norman's place before, at least I didn't remember ever doing so. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through that mess, did I? I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash and pocketed it. There were takeout containers and food scraps. Looked like Norman was eating for 2. Are you guys thinking what I'm thinking? Was our boy an alcoholic and Rachel was having an affair with Norman and our boy in a drunken, sleepwalky type haze shot Norman, killed the old man, killed everybody? Let's keep finding out, guys. Let's see if this leads where I think it's going to lead. What was this? It looked like a pull chain hanging from the ceiling. I wondered where it led. Did I pull the chain? I gave the chain a single tug, and a single folding ladder to the attic popped out. Whoop. Oh dear. There was a large cardboard box I had that hadn't been sealed. Did I open it? Inside the old cardboard box was a pile of clothes, photos, and even shoes. As I looked closer, I realized they were Rachel's. What were you doing here, Rachel? Were you responsible for poor Norman downstairs? The items in the box only made my head spin more. I desperately needed answers. Oh boy, I think my theory is actually probably right, guys. I think our boy had killed everybody. I'd hope to hell Rachel had nothing to do with this mess. I don't know, my boy. I don't think it was Rachel that did this. I wasn't entirely surprised to find that this was here. It was one of Rachel's old fall coats. I always wondered what happened to it. How long had it been here? There was a little bit of something dark staining the sleeve. There was a little bit of something dark staining the sleeve. Inside the cabinet was a small but impressive collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and even a few items I didn't think were legal here. One of the slots on the rack was empty. The gun I had found seemed to match the others there. If the handgun was Norman's, what the hell was he doing with it? The gun would fit there. Did I place it back in the cabinet? Yes. I carefully pushed the piece back into place and felt a great burden lifted. Norman, what were you doing with all of these? Huh, another trophy. A close call. Oh dear. Makes me wonder if the kitchen knife goes in there too. I used the hairpin to pick the lock. The hairpin snapped in half, so I threw it away. The general store was small, but it was clean. It had the usual items: postcards, snacks, magazines, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. Yeah. The register was mostly empty, and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. I wondered if somebody had robbed the place before killing Norman upstairs. Maybe it was Colonel Mustard and he used the candlestick in the billiard room. I'm just saying. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. It must have been off for a while. Most of its contents were half melted. What was the matter, Norman? Cheated on your hydro bills too? There were various postcards from the area, especially from the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old black and white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. Of all the postcards, that one seemed to be the most popular. There were only a few left. It had been weeks since I'd last seen Norman, and finding him that way still left me cold. Thinking of him slumped against that chair only cemented my reassurance in getting rid of that gun. It looked like someone had taken that piece from his store. But why was it in those tunnels? As I stepped outside, I recalled that dusty old box of clothes in Norman's attic. I felt like I had only discovered more questions and no answers. But I was close to home. It was time to find out the truth. Oh, my boy, I don't think you're ready for the truth. I had the wrong gate. This one was locked. That door only led me back out. I had to find my house. Only led me back. I had to find my house. Ah, crap, we got ourselves locked out. Oh well, that's okay. We'll keep trudging forward. Because we're almost done with this, guys. We're almost done with this. It's not a very long game, but it's interesting. It's intricate. The neighborhood's local post box. The letter was sticking out as if somebody hadn't pushed it all the way in. I knew it wasn't right, but did I look at the letter? The envelope was addressed to Norman. There was no return address, but the handwriting looked familiar. I took a deep breath and tore open the package. Norman, I'm sending this to you in a letter because I'm afraid to tell you this in person. What we did, well, it was wrong. My husband isn't an easy man to be with, but he is my husband and your friend. I need some time to sort this out away from you both. I'm going away for a while. I'm going to tell him, Norman, so you don't think you can hold that, against me. Maybe we'll work it out. I'm not sure. I even want to, but he deserves at least that much. Goodbye. I don't know what to think. My mind was racing. My heart was pounding. I had to get home. I just had to. Woo! Did I actually call that right on the button? I called that right on the button. I had entered our backyard. Oh, go figure I have to pick the actual house. That's funny. I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding, and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I never did fix this gate. It was stuck. I needed to press on. There was no turning back at this point. I held my breath as I approached our back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painfully quiet. The only sound was my own breathing. Ragged and strained, I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. I remembered having breakfast here on this very table. Was that yesterday or sometime before? The table was clean. It hadn't been used any time recently. The door to the basement, it was locked. Where did I put the damn key? There was a small pile of mail on the floor in front of the mail slot. How long had I been away? Why hadn't Rachel picked this up? Most of the contents were bills. There was a credit card bill there. Did I open it? I ripped the bill open and read it. To my surprise, it said something about canceling my credit card due to non-payment. What the hell? This didn't make any sense. The front door was locked from inside. I couldn't go out, though. I needed to see if Rachel was here. This didn't make any sense. Okay, that chair is flipped upside down. Is the anticipation of Goosebumps getting to you guys? The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. Is the anticipation making you guys tense? Because it's making me tense. I found the last missing piece of my wallet. The old Rachel photo of Rachel and I staring back at me, reminding me of better times. It did make me feel terribly comfortable. Did I keep it? It did make me feel terribly comfortable. Did I keep it anyway? Yes. I replaced the photo in my wallet, feeling like I had got part of my life back. Still, the image made me uneasy. Why had I thrown it away? Hey, stolen identity. That's kind of funny. I'm doing a complete playthrough for you guys, and I get like 3 trophies from this game. I find that wholly ironic and humorous. Our television. I had purchased it before I knew I was going to lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterwards, but by then it was too late. Rachel was pretty angry about that, I realized. The books were half mine, half Rachel's. Hey, now that I looked more closely, it looked like the man in that house had some of the same books as I did. One book in particular seemed a bit odd. I remembered owning it, but not that edition. My wife's Rachel's suitcase was sitting on the bed. It was closed, but I had a feeling what was in it. Did I open it? Inside Rachel's suitcase were a few days' worth of clothes, some personal effects, and a train ticket. As I stared at the ticket, I could feel myself flush with anger and resentment. The date and time matched the receipt I had found. Rachel, why? Were you really going to run away with Norman? Was I really such a monster? Our hallway mirror had been smashed, its pieces scattered around the floor. I couldn't really make myself out anymore. I wasn't sure I wanted to. Oh, the self-realization is coming to fruition. My laptop had been left on and only had a little bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top drawer of my desk. Did I take it? The laptop was warm. It had been running for a while. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of those wonderful old claw-footed bathtubs. It seemed more impractical at times, but it was part of what made this house home. Our sink, which needed to be replaced, one of the taps always stuck, but I hadn't got around to fixing it yet. That old house was charming for sure, but it wasn't always easy. The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. I unlocked the basement door. There were some old Christmas decorations in the box. I couldn't even remember our last Christmas. The garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was a dirty old key in there. Did I take the key? I took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. Looked like there was some plaster and an old trowel in there too. There were some old clothes, tools, and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. We had way too much junk. Story of my life, trust me. I had put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck and the drywall was poorly installed. I might have been able to break through, though, if I found something heavy enough. We had too much junk. Okay, let's go upstairs. The grimy key I had found in the basement unlocked the door. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did somebody break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Did I take the crowbar? I lifted the heavy crowbar. I appreciated its weight. Ooh, we might want to brace for the impact because, you guys know what we're going to find next. Did I break through the wall with the crowbar? With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall, and I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down there? Was she okay? Don't cook. Oh. A filthy-looking pile of rags had been dumped in the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile to see what lay within. But I knew I had to. I'd come this far. After all this searching, after all I had seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel? Oh no. My hands trembled as I pulled back the layers of the cloth. There, at the center, under all the dirt and all the mess, was my beloved, my Rachel. Her arms were bruised all over and slashed repeatedly. Her clothes were ripped and torn. And even through all that sickening blood, it was obvious she had been stabbed to death. The knife I had carried all this way suddenly seemed like a poison. What had happened, Rachel? Who did this to you? The thought about all I had seen and wondered if any of it could help me figure out who had done this. And when I couldn't stay there any longer, I stepped away on shaky legs and made my way back upstairs. Reluctantly, exhausted from my journey, I could no longer resist the urge to close my eyes. Grim discovery. Maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some places to go. Or some place to go. No matter what, I needed some kind of escape. It was my wallet with its contents intact. Either I dropped that stuff or somebody else did. Maybe I was sleepwalking again, or maybe somebody stole it from me. Norman's store, that forest, the clock tower. Was I at those places before? I didn't see how it could have happened any other way. I must have been the one to lose my wallet and its contents. But what does that mean? This was the old photo of that other man and his wife, I presumed. I found it in that house. I recalled those faded remains I had found deep underneath his house. What had he done there? Well, what do I think? Was that man involved in this whole mess somehow? I'm going to say no, because the old man... Well, no, yeah, the old man might have had some... Definitely, those tunnels, the odd tools in his house, and the remains of his wife, he wasn't innocent, that's for sure. But who had killed him? Within the few broken pieces that remained of that mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I felt empty and drained. It was the key card I found at the bottom of the factory locker. I never did bother to use it. Somebody had been going through those lockers and poking around the plant. Still, it didn't quite add up. Was I the one who had been going back to the factory? Concerning you lost your job there and you probably became an alcoholic from it, I'd say yes. It looked that way, didn't it? That locker room. I had given up drinking, but... The laptop had finally run out of power. How long had it been left running? The reflection of that grimy glass was only a shadow, a whisper. The quiet in that room unnerved me terribly. I still loved the old-timey charm of that claw-footed bathtub, though it seemed like cold comfort then. Rachel loved this part of the house. My old office safe sat on the floor. I used to keep tax records and other important documents in it. It used a digital passcode lock, but I didn't have the code. Maybe I had left it somewhere. I leafed through the notebook I had taken in the forest. In it were the names that had been written down. These poor girls, were they victims of the same person who had killed Rachel? I wondered what happened to the other names on that list, or the ones scratched out on the desk in those wet tunnels. The man in that house, was he responsible? When I woke up, I found him dead already. It was the letter I had taken from the postbox. Rachel, were you really having an affair with Norman? But why? I didn't think things were that bad. In the letter, Rachel seemed concerned. She almost seemed worried of what Norman might do. Did he do that to Rachel? Let's sit back and analyze this for a second. So, our character, us, our wife was cheating on us. We were an alcoholic working in a factory. We lost our job. You know, Norman seemed to be having Rachel over, seemed to be having an affair, and in her letter, she said, I'm going to tell him it's not right, but he is my husband, and he deserves to know, and you can't hold that against me. Like, she was saying it like Norman was going to hold it over her head. And you know, they talk about crimes of passion, but even though our character was an alcoholic, Norman had a bunch of guns, and one was missing. So my theory, guys, is Norman may have threatened Rachel, so it could be very possible that, but then again, you know, who killed Norman? Maybe Norman realized what he did and committed suicide. Like, I don't know, Norman probably might have done it to Rachel. I was sure of it. She wanted to end their affair, and that bastard, he killed her for it. A lot of it made sense. Norman was clearly seeing Rachel a lot, so he had plenty of time to plan it out. He knew where we lived, obviously. Is that why Rachel looked so scared when I came home that day? What had happened to me? Did Norman knock me out or something? I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to put this whole mess behind me. From now on, I'd have nobody to get angry with me for stupid things like buying this TV. Just thinking about things like that made me sick with grief. I mean, I don't know. I feel a certain way about that. It seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe I thought I was ready to go back down into the basement. The mail still sat there, heaped on the floor. How long had Rachel been lying in the basement? It seemed like that mail had been here for a while. There would be no more dinners here, no more chit-chat over breakfast, at least not for us. I couldn't recall when I last ate, but I wasn't hungry in the least. I kind of want to find, like, the receipt letters. I want to try to find it. If I could find the code to the safe, maybe I could get it open. I mean, it would kind of make sense because it's a crimes of passion kind of thing. But I don't know. I believe Norman might have done it. And I believe that Norman might have been grief-stricken, so he killed himself. You know, he realized he killed his best friend's wife out of, you know, anger. Like, wouldn't you? I don't know. It's a slippery slope, guys. It's a slippery slope when you deal with something of that magnitude. Laptop was dead, but I found some notes and loose paper in the drawer where I had found the key. There was a yellow sticky note with an 8-digit code. Did I take it? Yes. I mean, it's a slippery slope, guys. Like, that's what I love about this. Like, it's just unnerving. The code I found should have left me access. Did I open it? The code worked. I pulled open the small safe door and I peered inside. There was a photo in there of Rachel and I when we first had moved to the town. In it. We were smiling outside in front of the house, which looked like a real mess. We looked happy, though. Odd, I couldn't remember who took that photo. Inside the safe was also an envelope. The front of it read, "Do not open until I tell you." I guess this was a good time as any to see what was inside. Did I open the envelope and read what was inside? I tore open the envelope and removed the yellow-lined paper inside. Hey, Black Mirror finished. That's another one that's going to be during this October Halloween game month. Inside was a letter written in a hand that looked familiar. The letter read, "I know this whole event was probably pretty difficult. You can't imagine how hard it has been for me too. Well, maybe you can. That isn't meant to be an excuse, but, well, I hope you can better understand why I've done what I've done. Moving to this town seemed like such a dream, a quiet place to get established, to live out our lives and to be together. But you know as well as I do that things quickly changed. Your drinking was one thing, but as you grew more distant, as you retreated into that world of yours, well, it became clear to me that you didn't want me or need me anymore. In fact, maybe you never needed me at all. Maybe it took all this to make you realize. In the end, though, you may never forgive me for this. You may never forgive yourself. But this is probably for the best. You'll be healthier for this. I'm just sorry it had to happen this way. Rachel. Damn. Even in death, that's like a cold thing to say. Like, that's just messed up. If I was guilty, I could take this to a warm, safe place and do something about it. Did I pick up the knife? I took the knife and I kept it firmly in my hand. Now that I stood there, I realized I couldn't go back into that room again. I had already seen too much. I needed to put an end to this situation one way or another. The quiet in that room unnerved me terribly. The old claw-footed bathtub hadn't been cleaned nearly enough. Still, it'd probably do. If I wanted to, I could use that knife to finally end this. The question was, did I think I deserved it? Did I? Was this my fault? Did I deserve to die? No! No, as painful as all this was, I didn't want to lay the blame on myself. Dude, like... Like, it's not really his fault. Like, he just... Circumstances got out of his control. Like, it happens in life. I mean, it sucks, but... Like, dude... And they don't give me the option... Oh. Front door's down here. I knew I needed to escape that nightmare, but what about the knife I had still carried? I wondered, even if I left, would it really be over? So did I leave that house forever? Yes. Living in this town hadn't been easy. The plant had helped in some way to stay grounded. It kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I had started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. I had MRIs and piles of doctor reports, but nothing seemed to help, not even drinking. But I swear I had tried to give it up. I know it. The sleepwalking never really went away, though, but I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me, even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was a final act of a long-standing horror I had been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I had remained unconscious in that room forever. It was obvious to me that the man I had found in that house had something to do with all this. Could he have killed Rachel? It started to seem like there were too many things I had seen to think otherwise. After making it out of those tunnels, I thought those sewers might feel safer. I was wrong. The security tape I had watched showed somebody being attacked by what looked like two people. But who was it that was being attacked? I had found the contents of my wallet scattered across the town. Why the hell had I been out there? Had my sleepwalking gone to a new extreme? The thought that I couldn't account for my whereabouts, but knew I had been to that forest and even Norman's place, well, that was terrifying. I didn't know what that meant, but at least I had recovered my things. Hopefully, I thought, that I would cover my tracks so I wouldn't be blamed for all this. Even more troubling were those poor girls I found in those terrible woods. Half hidden in a shallow grave, their secret deaths seemed like the ultimate defiling. If I hadn't found them, would anybody have done so? Would they have even been missing? I vaguely recalled the desk I had seen in those tunnels, the names etched out there. Someone had killed these girls. Was it that man? It was clear, at least, that I had been the one going back to that factory. I must have been sleepwalking or something. But what the hell was I doing there? I had given up drinking, hadn't I? So what was going on in that boarded up room? Suddenly, my stomach started to turn. Was I responsible for that dead guard? After the factory, I thought I might find some solace if I could just get to Norman's store. But all I had found there was more horrors and more questions. Now that I finally and truly consider it, that's when I should have seen it coming. Norman, you were dead, and it was damn hard to feel bad about that. It was clear you and Rachel were more than just friends, but obviously whatever had been going on had gone badly. So why did you kill her? Did she want out of whatever you two were getting into? Were you responsible for the other murders and of those horrible things that had gone down in the town? I would find no peace, that much was certain. But this way, I didn't have to look you in the eye or sit through some kind of trial and wonder what was going through your head. When I had marched through the rain towards home, I desperately clung to the hope that this would end. And I guess in a way it did. But how could I have known how hopeless it all was? I had started to feel as disoriented as when I sleepwalked. To think of it now. Coming through the back door and into the kitchen should have tipped me off that something was horribly wrong. There was no sound, no television, or the radio, and even, eerily, the air was still. But seeing Rachel lying there, lying ruined, lying discarded in the basement, that was a horror I could never have imagined. That other man I had found was involved in all this somehow. I knew it. But it was Norman, that treacherous son of a bitch who had done the deed. Whatever was going on, he was the one who took Rachel away from me. I hated him for it. Hated him more than I could possibly express. But that offered no strength, no solace. Rachel was gone now. And I was too. Forever. As I swung open the door and stepped out into the air, I caught the scent of wet grass and fog. Rachel, my beautiful wife. Just the thought of her again, cold and inert, shook me from head to toe. What would I do now? Who could I turn to? It would only be a matter of time before the police got involved, before the neighbors knew. The front lawn was soft and giving beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the urge that I shouldn't stand there, but rather that I should run. Slipping away. So, okay, one of the endings, there's 3 endings allegedly from what I've seen. One where you end it in the bathroom, which was the ending I did not want to go for. Just because, you know, I wanted to be careful of not triggering people. Another one was ending it in... Aw, don't watch your back. Another ending was to end it in the kitchen, which I'm presuming if you had the handgun, you would probably shoot yourself. But what really got to, and of course an ending where you slip away before the cops get there, you give yourself up, all different kinds of things. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this game. I love this game, and I love the premise of it, because it's very rare that you have a horror adventure game that has no jump scares, not like superficial gore, but just what makes it scary is the ambiance, and as you're picking up more clues, you kind of start to get a little unnerved, like, did we do it? Did we not do it? And it's all a matter of perspective for you, the player, to figure out what this game does. So with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough of the game Home. I'm pretty sure I've actually played Home on the channel before, but I don't think I ever did like a full playthrough. But this was exciting, guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed it. Benjamin Rivers, man, and everybody that was involved in this game, good job, guys. Like, even though I had already played and beaten this game, I still found kind of a nuance to it, like something new to be able to enjoy out of it. And we got a couple of trophies too, which is actually kind of both funny and surprising. I didn't expect I was going to get quite a few trophies in that playthrough, just from, digging around. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to stop the video right here. I hope you guys have a good one. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys. And we are only beginning in the month of October. A couple more scary games are coming. I have at least, you saw Black Mirror finish installing. If not, then yeah, we're going to play a little bit of Black Mirror, and I also will be playing a little bit of another horror game which is called Silvio. So we'll be playing a couple of scary games during the month of October, or some horror-related ones. But I figured I'd do this one because it was simple, it was to the point, and it had a very, easy atmospheric premise. So take care, guys. Have a good one, and I will see you all in the next one.